everyone, this is me, Betty Confetti, and today we're talking about how people, when you move from a third world country and you live in the first world, how your family back home takes advantage of you. There's several videos attached to this, and at this timestamp, you'll hear my commentary, and then I will get back.
If you're a Latino and you have family members back in your country, you don't need to feel guilty about not sending them money. Yesterday, I got a call from my niece, and I've never met her in my life. I've been in this country for 40 years, and I have never met my niece. And the phone call always begins the same way. How are you? She wants to know about me because she wants to sweeten me up in some kind of way. So she'll always start with me, but it almost immediately turns to her and how her life is so miserable in Honduras. So then she starts to tell me that there are no jobs, and it's the same story over and over. I've heard it before, right? And then she goes, I really want to buy 2 pigs because I think it's a good idea for me to, start growing pigs and chickens, and that way I can sell them and make a lot of money. And I said to her, yeah, that's a great idea. My dad, when I lived in Honduras, my dad used to do the same thing. We used to have like 15, 20 pigs, and we used to sell them, and they sell very well. And not only that, whenever we were short on meat, we would just slaughter a pig and have meat for weeks. So then here's the question. Can you send me money? Because each one of them costs $1,500, which is about a couple of $100 US dollars, right? So she needs $400. And here's the reason why I said no to her. One, they're always lying. Every time she calls me for something, it's always someone sick. There's always, last time she got me, she wanted to move from point A to point B because the area where she lived at flooded. And she was like, I need to move to higher grounds. Can you send me some money? I sent her $400. Did she move? Nope. And here's the other reason why I don't send her money. Because they always call me. She'll always call me to ask me for money. But I never get an update phone call. I never get a thank you phone call. It's like, okay, did she receive the money? Did I not even a, Tia, I got the money. Thank you so much. I was able to move. None of that. I never get an update of what happened to the money. So now it's like, no, you know what? And by the way, me and my mom, we just sent them a box of things. We sent them microwaves. We sent them TVs. We sent them money. Just Christmas. It's only mid-January, and she already wants more money. So the answer is no. I know that a lot of you are going to be like, well, they're poor in Honduras. The answer is no. Members back in your country, you don't need to feel guilty about not sending them money.
No, because why did my mom and my stepdad buy a house in Mexico, in Palomas, Mexico, and let my uncle live in it? And he got his little girlfriend over there, and they forged his signature and her signature, and then they sold the house. And the only way my mom found out is because she went to Palomas, and when she went to her house, there was new people living in it, and they told her that they bought it off of a lady named Belém, and that's her name, and off of my stepdad's name. And she's like, no, that's impossible. Like, this is my house, and I didn't sell it. And turns out, yeah, they bought the house, but it wasn't for my mom. It was from my uncle and his little girlfriend. And so when obviously my mom and my stepdad were really mad, and my grandma was the only thing that was keeping them from pressing charges, because that was her favorite son. That was her favorite son, and my mom didn't want to upset her by pressing charges. But yeah, we lost the house, and now we don't have a house in Mexico. And he did the same. My uncle ended up doing the same thing to my grandparents. He made them sell their house. So now he don't have a house. So yeah, stop sending money over there, because nothing's getting done. And if stuff is getting done, it's half-assed done. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
feel.
I'm a first-generation American with both parents from Jamaica, and boy, do I have stories. I watched my mother send money back to her older brother in Jamaica for years. She was practically covering majority of his expenses. And the excuse was always, oh, things are so hard in Jamaica, there's not much opportunity, etc., etc. So when I was a teenager, I went to Jamaica for the first time and met this particular uncle. The first thing he said to me after finding out I was his sister's daughter was, wow, I heard your mom has gotten fat since moving to the States. Then he proceeded to ask 13-year-old me for $20. And I really think that's where my villain origin story began as it relates to sending money back home. Because first of all, this was an able-bodied man and he really could have worked. But I realized that the same people you're supporting will turn around and make jest of you behind your back. So if you want to send money, go for it. But this idea that you're obligated to send money back to people in your home country has got to stop.
You don't need to feel guilty about not sending them money.
This is very true. Growing up, my family's from El Salvador, and my mom and my grandmother, rest in peace, would send money back home to El Salvador to some of the family members that had that were living in my grandmother's house that she kind of built out of nothing really. And it wasn't a house like your average Salvadorian house, which honestly aren't that, there's some nice homes there, but like my grandmother lived in the slums, so her house was kind of slummy, but it was her home, and she came out here. I think one of her daughters made her resident. So anyway, she would just come back and forth. She wouldn't stay for too long, and she'd go back to El Salvador and spend time in her house with that family. And that family was always asking for money when she was out here. Oh, I'm sick, I need money, I need this, there's no jobs, blah blah blah. Granted, if you're poor, you're not educated, you have to really hustle in El Salvador. Like, I know El Salvador right now is looking all great and everything, but there's still poor people there. There's still people that are struggling, that can't, they're money hungry because they don't have it and they've never had it and they might never ever have it. Like, the people that have migrated out here are lucky to be able to provide now for themselves, for their families, but the ones that were in the slums that came out here like out of nothing, made something out of themselves, good for them. But anyway, I digress. My grandmother was slowly saving money because she was going to eventually just stay there. So she'd come out here, and I think she qualified for I think Social Security out here. I'm not sure. She was getting a little bit of money here, I think, but I forgot who was sending it. She was getting a little bit of money, not a lot, but she was saving that money, and so she was going to go back. As she grew older, she got weaker, and she had like a little a drawer with a lock, and like my cousins like had the audacity to go, they didn't have the key, so they went behind the drawer and opened it and got all the money out that she had saved. And my grandmother passed away, and my mom started helping that same family. And I'm like, why do you help these people? Like, your immediate family is here in the United States now. Like, there's nobody there that really that's immediate to us. Like, I don't have a sister, I don't have a brother, I don't have a child. Like, my mom's not out there. We're all out here, so we don't need to help them. It's nice to be able to, but then they start taking advantage. They're like, oh, I need this. They call you every time. And what this woman is saying in the video prior, it's true. They'll call and say, oh, how are you, tía? ¿Cómo estás? Que no me esté. Oh, sí, yo las quiero mucho, blah, blah, blah. Dios bendiga. Que Dios la bendiga, blah, blah, blah. Necesito dinero. And just send me money. And blah, not even a call after. They disappear. Or they say, let me borrow. And then they just disappear and block my mom. And I'm just like, Mom, why do you let these people take advantage of you? And another thing, I had a grandfather that my mom was helping because he was old, and she wanted to do that. She's like, oh, I'm going to help this old man because he was the first person who ever bought me shoes. Can you believe that? This is in the 60s. She never had a pair of shoes, and this my grandfather bought her first pair of shoes. So she was like, oh, I'm going to always help him as long as he's alive until the end. So she would send money every month to one of my cousins, and she was taking care of him. And and feeding him okay and buying him his newspaper. When my mom went to El Salvador to check on that, like they weren't even taking care of him. They weren't feeding him right. He wasn't living in bad conditions. And like my cousin had bought all these new appliances, couches, and keep in mind she didn't live like in a like a nice wall place. It was like a slum place. She was like where there's laminate, there was like metal for and she had all these appliances, and my mom was like, okay. And after that, when she came back to the United States, she cut her off. But before that, she was like, they were just hogging my mom's money for like 2 or 3 years after, that she was sending money. And they have no remorse, and they still call, and they're like, oh, we need money, like, I'm sorry. And my grandmother passed away, and she left them the house. She left that family the house. And, despite it being in the slums, she always took care of it. She always maintained it. She always took, good care. Just because you live in the slum doesn't mean you're not a neat person and you can't maintain your home. And these people, I went 2 years ago. I went to go see, to heal some of my trauma. I went over there to just see how the home looked. It's like run down, it's hoarded. Like they took no care of that home. They cared nothing about it. So yeah, you don't have to help them. If you have your family out here, you don't have to help them. They take advantage of you. The more you give, the more they take. Think about it.
So I understand what all three of these people are talking about. This is a problem that happens if your parents migrate from the third world to the first, or either your grandparents did, or maybe you are the person that migrated. And all the family back home from the third world really expects for you to send them everything. I think the problem with this is that there's a misconception that when you live in the U.S., everyone's rich. And I don't think that they realize, like, hey, the USA is very expensive. It's not easy to live here, especially if you're not someone that's rich. Like if you're rich in the USA, you got it like that. But other than that, no. Like I see one of my family members sending back money to people they don't even know. And the people just disappear right after they send the money to them. They don't give a thank you or a howdy do or are you good? Nothing. They don't even give them a confirmation text like, hey, I got the money. They just disappear and just don't care. And I remember telling my dad one time, hey, if you got sick, do you think that they would even check on you? Do you think that they would want to get together some money to make sure you're okay? No, they don't care. These people only care about themselves. I'm not getting sucked. I feel the one woman when she said in a nutshell, she's not going to get suckered into sending people money the people that she just doesn't know, because I don't know those people either. And I see how they treat my dad and I don't like it, especially if your parents have kids overseas. So especially if they're the kid that's very selfish and egotistical. Oh yeah, they'll do that, because I have a quote unquote sibling that does it to my dad to the point where she just worked my dad into having high blood pressure. But that's besides the point. The point is a lot of people are going through this because it is a thing. And I think the expectations of our family overseas are way too high. Do they not realize Gucci and Louis cost so much more than our salaries, especially if you're someone without a degree? And even if you have a degree and a college education, you probably aren't making that much to send them Gucci and Louis. They even expect for you when you come back home to visit to have gifts for them. And it's like, well, I just sent you all that money. How is it that I got to give you gifts? The money was the gift. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I'll say this, like, hey, don't get suckered into this. Don't let people make you feel guilty for just existing or not sending them anything. And just keep doing you. You're doing great. I just want to know if anyone else is going through this with their family. Clearly they are, but I'm wondering if you guys will comment in the comment section below and share your stories. I'm Betty Confetti, first generation here in the U.S. Bye-bye.